Welcome to Hard Edge. I'm an Unreal Authorized Instructor, and I work as a lead technical artist in the games industry. In this video, you're going to learn how to extend the main menu bar for Unreal. Not only that, the skills acquired here will allow you to extend pretty much any other menu that you might like to. As I don't want to waste your time, what we're going to do in this video is learn how to make a menu entry, and I'm going to teach you how to add sub-menu entries to that menu entry and also have menus with submenus. This will be a two-part tutorial, and the second part will be more advanced, where we will use the project settings and I'll teach you how to create your own INI files to then derive the tools. This means that artists or tech artists or anyone in your project that makes an editor utility widget can add a new entry to this INI file, and it will automatically populate in your tool submenu here. But for this video, I'm going to teach you how to make this menu pop up here and add entries into it. From there, you can expand it however you want. This is an advanced C++ tutorial. I'm expecting you to be a gameplay programmer or a tech artist with C++ experience. The things you need to follow along in this tutorial is a C++ project. I recommend making a blank project. That is what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to walk you through the steps of creating your own editor module, and then from there, we will extend the menu bar with our own custom C++ code. I will leave links in the description for how I got to this solution, as I cobbled it together from a few references as I was researching out how to do this on the internet. I believe in crediting people where credit is due, and I would not be able to create this if it wasn't for the generosity of folks in the Unreal forums, GitHub, and their own websites. All right, let's get into it. The first thing we need is a blank project. I want it to be a C++ project. You don't need to have compiled from source or anything like that. So this is all I'm going to do. I don't actually need any starter content, and for our purposes, we don't need anything else. So I'm going to call this the My Custom Menu, and I'm going to hit create. Obviously, you need to have Visual Studio installed to be able to do C++. And in this particular instance, I'm going to use JetBrains Writer because it's free. Other IDEs are available. I just prefer Writer. I think it's really easy to work with, and its interconnection with Unreal is really, really powerful. So I'm going to create the project now, let it compile, and I'll bring you back. While the project builds and compiles, I want to tell you a little bit about the motivation behind this tutorial. There's a lot of tutorials out there on how to add custom buttons to Unreal. Most of them are Python based. I haven't really seen any tutorials that actually teach you how to add a menu to the main menu. I like to build tools, and one of the biggest impacts that I can have on a team is usually optimizing their workflows and helping them work faster. So I personally find that working with Python in Unreal is slightly clunkier than working with Python with other software such as Maya, Blender, and etc. And if I'm going to be doing any kind of tooling and coding in Unreal, if I'm going to call a Python script, I much rather just do C++ because I don't have to set up a whole environment, and it just makes things easier. I like it when things are just readily available. And one of the things I want to do is I want to surface the tools that I create to the artists on the project. Whenever there's a new tool, I want them to be able to go to the main menu bar, click the project name or whatever it is that we call it, find all of the tools that are created, and then access them for ease of use. Saving people time is one of my favorite things to do, and it's an incredibly powerful thing because you unblock people, you help them work faster and happier. This is the motivation for the project. If you're following along and you're using Writer, what will happen is that it's going to open the solution file. I don't actually want it to do that. So I'm actually going to want to open the uproject file, which, as you can see here, is already showing up for me. So I'm going to open that, and I'm going to close the solution file. Not only that, I'm also going to close the Unreal project itself because I'm going to add a submodule to it, and I don't need the project open while I'm doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for Writer to do its thing. The reason I like the uproject is because it actually structures the folders in a lot cleaner way. It gives it nice little icons, and it just overall is a much more pleasant experience to work with. As it fills things out here, I will go through and add a submodule. If you work at a AAA studio, AA, single A, doesn't really matter. You have code standards and you have a code structure that you should be following, and you probably know what you're doing if you're watching this video, so you don't need me to tell you where you should be putting your code. This is for everybody else who wants to just test it out and have this working. What we're going to do is we're going to add a submodule. And Writer makes this really easy. You can right click, add, and then you can come into here and say Unreal Module. And Writer makes things really, really easy because you can then say what kind of modules you have. You have runtime modules that is meant to be running during gameplay, thus the name runtime, and you have editor modules and a few other kinds of modules. We want an editor one because we're doing an editor extension. Make sure you name your module properly. This is going to be my Edge editor module because that's the name of my company and that's how I would build it normally. You'll see that it'll add the submodule inside the source folder, so it's going to chuck it in there, and we're going to hit OK now. It's going to take a couple of minutes for it to show up, maybe not a couple minutes, a few seconds. It's kind of pop up here, and then obviously you can see that will need some compilation. Most of the code that we will be building is going to be inside the submodule. Again, I'm not going to tell you where to organize your code. I'm just going to show you some code that is going to run and get you there, and you can modify it, place it wherever you like. And there you go. Writer has built our submodule, and we have our build.cs, our private and public folder, and we can start coding. We've just added the submodule. There's nothing really to it. I'm going to build the project or run it. If you hit the play button in Writer, it will build the project and run it. You can just build it by pressing this button here. And what I want to do is I want to show you something that's really important, which is maybe you're coming to this tutorial and you don't necessarily want to add something to the main menu bar. You want to add it to another menu bar or another window altogether. You need to know how to get to that specific menu bar. This is a really cool tip. You can go into Tools, or you can type in the tool menus.edit, and what it'll do is it'll show you a little bit more information about everything here. And say you wanted to add something in here, you'll notice that this is the level editor toolbar user. If you wanted to add something here, you'll notice that this is the level editor main menu. If you wanted to add something into here, it's the edit menu inside the level editor.main menu.window. This is really important so you know where we're going to actually attach things and extend things. In our particular case, in this example, I want to extend the level editor.main menu. I will now close this off because I already know this, and we're going to go tool menus.edit 0. One of the really useful things you can do now that we're here in the submodule is do a declare log category extern. And the cool thing about this is that Writer will tell you what this actually does. I want to call it the log edge editor, and I want to make sure that the verbosity and the compile time verbosity will be all and all. And that will be a log category that, as you can see here, is paired with a define log category macro in the source files, which means it will be accessible to all the files that are including this header. It's just something useful to do with submodules so that you can specifically log things per submodule that you have. Let's move on. We need to build a few functions here. And the main function that we want to do is want to actually add the menu onto the bar. So we're going to do a void add menu. And what we want to do is an f menu bar builder. And we want to make sure that this is a reference. And we're going to call it the menu. We can call it the menu bar builder or the menu builder, whatever we like. So that's the first function. Then we need another function in order to fill that menu, which will be called fill menu. And this takes a slightly different one, which is an f menu builder. Because we already have a menu, we need to fill it with things. So we need a menu builder, not a menu bar builder. And so we're going to call this a menu builder. And there we go. The thing that Writer does that's really cool is it lets us create the definitions by hitting Alt-Enter here. And I can come back to my other file by going Alt-O to go between my header and my source. And I'm going to generate the definition here as well. If you recall, we want to modify the level editor main menu bar. And for that, we're going to need to get the level editor module. So let's do that. F level editor module. You can see the autocomplete is helpful here. We want a reference to it. We want to call it the level editor module, which again, the autocomplete is helping us here. The way to get modules is to do the F module manager, and we go get module checked, because it will then check to see if that is the one that we want. It's load module checked. And we want to give it the level editor module because it needs to check the type. And what we're going to do is going to give it the exact name of the module. That's how it's able to get it. All right, we have the level editor module. You can see here, Write has been very helpful and already added the include for us. I'm going to just remove that empty space there. Now what I need is I need a menu extender. I found this code in the source for Unreal Engine because that's how they actually add extra little menus to the main bar. So this is code that I saw there. And what we want is a shared pointer. So we're going to go const t shared pointer. It's a templated class. We need an f extender. And the f extender is going to be called the menu extender. And we're going to make shareable. And it's going to be a new, lowercase new, f extender, like so. And it's an object, so we do it like that. Once we have the menu extender, we now need to add a menu bar extension to it. So you can go menu extender, and because it's a pointer, we go in it with the arrow, and you can see here you have add menu extension. But we want to add a menu bar extension because first of all, we're in the bar, not the menu. So add a menu bar extension. And you see here that it takes a few arguments, and you might not know how these work. So the extension hook is actually the menu that comes before the menu that you want to add in the bar. In our case, it's the help menu. You have to think about the hook as in it's hooking on top of this. So it's going, ooh, I'm basically skipping it. That's how I picture it in my head anyway. So we want to go after the hook, but you can see there it has an E extension hook. So it's got an enum with a position for the hook position. We can go E extension hook, and we can go into the enum, and you can see here there's an after, and that's what we want to do. Now, the command list is something we don't need to worry about, so it's going to be a null pointer. And this is where I'm going to, just for ease of visibility, because we're going to run out of screen space here, I'm going to put these in a separate line so we can actually start reading them. And what I'll do is now I need to add the function reference to it. You'll notice that this function here takes a f menu bar extension delegate. So that's how we need to start our line. F menu bar extension delegate. And we want to create a raw delegate here. And inside this, as you can see, it takes an in user object. It's going to be this. And then we need to call, or we need to bind the delegate to our function. So we're going to give it a reference to our f edge editor module, add menu, just like so. And we need to finish our line properly here. And that's what we need to do in order to populate the menu extender with the menu bar extension. Then we can finally use the level editor module, and then we can dot into it because it is an object here, and we can go get extension. It's a bit of a weird name. It's extensibility manager there. So it's the menu extensibility manager there. And from there, we do add extender, and we add our menu extender. And that is effectively saying, hey, now you've added a new menu. So we're extending the menu with something. What are you extending it with? The add menu function. And so within the add menu function is where we can start populating that. Believe it or not, the hard part is pretty much done. I'm just going to move these functions above the shutdown module. It's just a organizational thing. I rather my shutdown be the last function just because it makes sense to me to be it that way. And so now that we have the add menu function, it's going to get called by the extensibility manager to add the as a menu extender. What we can do is from the menu bar builder, we can then add a menu. And so it's quite easy. We go menu bar builder and we can just go add pull down menu. And that's kind of it. It's really, really useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it the name that I want and a tooltip. That's pretty much it. So I want it to be hard edge, and I would like the tooltip to be hard. We'll go here, hard edge tools, like so. But that's not all that we need to do in order to build the menu, because we need to fill the menu with things inside it. And as you can see here, it will take a menu label, a menu tooltip, and then it takes an F new menu delegate. And you should kind of see the pattern here, because that's exactly what we're going to do with the fill menu. The way to think about the add menu and fill menu is that adding the menu is adding another entry. Filling the menu is actually, imagine that this box was completely blank. And if that was the case, then filling the menu would be having functions for each of these to add them. And you can have submenus within menus like this, and we'll go into that later. So given that this is what we need, we're going to go ahead and say F new menu delegate like so. And because this again is going to be a little bit long in the tooth for us to kind of do our thing, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say that we want an F, oops, sorry, wrong way. We're going to go F new menu delegate. We're going to again create raw, and from the create raw, it is exactly the same thing as before. It takes an class, which will be this, and then once we do that, we need to give it a reference to our function, which will be quite simple. And again, F edge editor module for me, and now it knows it needs to fill menu. And that's kind of it, really. So we're sort of moving it back and forth, right? So we're saying build the bar extension, add the menu, now fill the menu. That's the important part. At this point, we can try and compile and see what happens, right? So I think the project is still running, so I'm going to close it and I'm going to run it, and hopefully it'll be okay. I'm going to stop it here as well, just in case. Then this is a good thing to do because we've added an include and we're using a few classes here that we didn't really declare. We need to make sure that those dependencies are all covered. And as you can see there, we have an issue here already. And that's because I'm feeding this pull down menu here. It's expecting an F text reference, and I'm giving it just a literal string. One of the things we can do here is we can do F text and we can do from string. And that will allow us to get that to work. And so I'll just go ahead and do the same thing. And like so, and that should compile for us just fine. And ideally, what we want to see here is that the build will complete and we won't have any issues, which is 100% the case. Brilliant. We're in a great spot. Let's see what happens. We have our menu. It's there. It doesn't do anything when you click it, but it's there. Awesome. So now we need to fill the menu with something, and I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly. At this point here, you might already have everything that you need, and you can kind of guess where we're going to go. It's really quite simple. We take the menu builder, and, well, we add an entry, like so. And you'll see that it's basically the same kind of thing that we've done before. We need a name, we need a label, we need a tooltip, and the other things that it needs is an icon in case you have one, and then it has a requirement for an UI action, which is a Lambda function on the most basic case. So why don't we do the same thing that we've done here, and we're just going to add this in, and we're going to say that that will be our first entry. So this in here will be a tool. And then from there, I'm going to paste this again, and it's going to go a tool tooltip. And again, you can see this is going to get a bit verbose. So let's go ahead and split it so it's nice and readable. Add the comma and go from there. So now what we need is an F slate icon and then the FUI action. And you can see here that the extension hook already has none, and all of these have already got default values assigned to them. So we only need the icon and the FUI action. And all we need to do is create an F slate icon. Oh, geez. Slate icon. Like this. That's all we need to do there. And now we need to actually add the Lambda function. For that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an FUI action, and the FUI action is going to go F execute action, scope resolution, create Lambda, like so. And obviously it'll create the Lambda. Here is our capture, here is our inputs, and then it's hard to see. We need to go ahead and create our function, like so. And obviously we're going to want to finish that line properly there. So that's effectively what we need to do. And in our particular instance, well, we don't really want to do anything because I don't know what you want to do, but I'm going to go ahead and do ue.log, and we're going to use our log category. So we're going to go log edge editor. We're going to say log and then text. And we're going to say first tool activated. And there we are. And we can just, in this particular instance, terminate the line there. And we can test if this is going to work already. So that's how we add a menu entry to our menu. So I'm going to stop the project from running. I'm going to rerun it, and you'll see that we'll have a nice new shiny button. Here we go. The project compiled just fine. And you can see here that I now have a tool. And if I click a tool, our first tool is activated. This is basically everything that you need in order to launch this project and add yourself a menu entry with a button inside it. If you wanted to know how to add a menu with a submenu, I'm going to just paste in the code right now for you to see, because it's basically the same stuff. The difference is when we're adding a menu entry here to the menu builder, that's a single entry that we've built with the Lambda function. Adding a submenu is a different function, and then you need to have the submenu heading and do the sort of tooltip, the delegate for the submenu, then just adds a menu entry. So it basically repeats this code, but inside the scope of a submenu function call. And this will, in turn, create a basic menu with a submenu for us. And as you can see here, it's the same code, just duplicated over and over. And that's it. If you can see here, inside the editor, we've got a tool that we can click. We've got the example submenu with tools inside it, and those tools can both be clicked as well. How you modify this and how you extend this is completely up to you, and the world is your oyster at this point. I just wanted to bring attention to the lock text macro, which is the localized text macro. Since you're dealing with UI, you might be working with external vendors who might be compiling your engine in perhaps a different language. This could happen. And as this is UI, we tend to want to localize the text. So adding this macro here means that you don't have to do the ftext from string. You can just type in the strings directly here, and it works quite well. The only other thing that I want to bring attention to before we wrap up is that obviously we're using Lambda functions here, and that's a little bit limiting. You might want to pull this from a Blueprint function library or from a different file or something like that. So the code that you really need is something along the lines of this, where you want to build the FUI action and just make sure that it's actually linking it directly to your function. All you need to do is wrap the call within the FUI action And so this makes the system of adding menus a lot more extensible. So if you're using things, and I would think the biggest advantage here is to use your own Blueprint function library or your own functions from other files, and this is how you would do it. So I didn't want to leave you shortchanged of how to do it. So if you're trying to follow along and copy the code as I scroll through or things like that, don't worry. I've put a link in the description that is the actual link of this tutorial inside the Unreal Engine developer community, and you can copy this code and just have a look at it. The header file is very simple. I'll put it there as well, and you can see we didn't have to edit the build.cs at all. Everything just works right out of the box. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this tutorial has been useful for you, and happy menu making.